Okay, so it's 12, so we'll get started here. We'll let people trail in for the next couple minutes, but I'll do our introduction. So hi, everyone. Welcome to the Mindscope webinar. Thank you all for coming out today. For those of you joining for the first time, my name is Charlotte. I work in marketing at Mindscope, and walking us through the training today will be Sahil, who I know a lot of you already know. So today's a bit of an exciting one. We're going to be looking through some of the new features of the latest Mindscope software update. Now this update is still kind of going through some of the finishing touches, and we want to make sure it's perfect before deploying it to our clients, but today will serve as like a little sneak peek for what we have in store. So some of the things we're going to be covering today include a new search bar, a new pin feature for navigation, as well as some updates to cloning job orders. In addition, the layout of the UI is going to be changing a little bit, so there will be a few new modules added at the top, including placements, opportunities, and insights. Sahil will expand on all of these points in just a moment, but before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions about any of the features at any time, just leave them in the chat section and we'll address them at the end. And if everyone can just keep themselves on mute, you can keep your cameras on if you'd like, but just keep yourselves on mute for the duration of the webinar, just to avoid any background noise. That would be awesome. So Sahil, you want to take it away?
Thank you so much. All right, let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
I can, yep.
Okay, perfect. All right, so as Charlotte said, we'll be walking through the new user interface update. Now, I'll be showing you some cool little features, but first let's talk about this real estate of the screen. Now, looking at the current and then the update, you can see the search bar has moved all the way to the top right. And also the icons are a little bit smaller, so you have a bit more real estate on the actual page. When it comes to the with the search bar, you can still locate candidates by first name, by last name, or a combination. So if you're looking for Sahil B, you can type in SA space B and still find this candidate. When you click on the search at the top, you actually have access to all your recent searches, where you can click on the three dots. You can rename a search, delete it, edit a search. You can search within a search, or do a whole new search and append it to the same search. We've moved the hot list right over here. So you can click on hot list at the top. And you can actually search for hot list if you have, quite a bit of them. So let's say not interviewed yet, you can search at the top and right away get your results. With hot list, you can click on the three dots. You can rename them, delete them, or let's say you want to assign them to a different user. You might have a couple of candidates that you want to show to one of your colleagues. You can add them to a list, assign them to that user. When they log in, they'll be able to see the hot list. At any time, you can make a hot list public or private. So if you had made a hot list just to yourself, but you want to share it with your team, you can always make it public with a click of a button, just like that. What's nice about this search bar, in the current updated Mindscope, the quick search is right over here. And when you're in a candidate file, you couldn't do a quick search anymore. You'd have to go back to the listing page. Now, when you go into a file, that search bar is still at the top. So if you want to search for a next candidate, perfect. For a hot list, perfect. You can easily access that. Then we have a new pin feature. This feature is actually located in the clients and the job order section already. You might be working on a job order and you're flipping through a bunch of candidates. And let's say you want to pin this candidate, pin the next candidate. So that way you can flip through the profiles really quickly. There's a new button right over here. And if you click, in this case, I'll unpin the candidate. If I click again, the candidate is now repinned. If I head back to my list, and let's say I go to a different candidate name, and you go ahead and pin this candidate, you'll have both at the top. And when you click, you can easily flip through the candidates. Very, very simple. Now, as mentioned, this is available in the client section as well as the job order section. So if you're working on a couple of job orders, you no longer have to search for them or add them into a hot list all separately. You can pin them, and once you're done, you can either unpin individually or all at once right over here. Now, one feature that we have in the current interface is the move feature. So if you haven't used this before, this is how you make a candidate a client contact. If you just call John Smith and John actually works at one of your clients, you can click on the move. You can type in the client name, type in the current title for John. And when you click on move, it creates John as a client contact. You would know that by looking right over here. It now shows view contact profile. So if I head into the client section, I look for AK Construction, he'll now be there as a contact. It also updates right over here, and it updates in the employment information section right over here. But what if you want to do the opposite? So let's head into a client and let's go to a contact.
Exactly.
So Daron. Now, on this page right over here, we've added a new button, Save as Candidate. So you can take a contact, you can save as a candidate, and just like that, you have a new candidate profile created. You would know because right over here, there's a new link of View Candidate Profile. And when you click, it's now made your contact a candidate. Now, what's neat about this is when you're looking at the activity, you actually have a toggle. So if you want to see the candidate activity, or if you want to jump over to the contact activity, you can actually toggle between each one of those. Perfect. Let's head into the job order section. Now, if you noticed, one of the most requested items was probably this one. It's having an open job order button. So now you can easily click and it'll just show you your open jobs only. Now, one important thing to know, a job order status could be different from the system status. A system status, you only have one of three options. You either have the job is open, the job is filled, or the job has been canceled. A job is open because you might have, let's say, in this case, 3 positions. 3 are still open because you have 0 placed candidates. So that's considered an open job. If you went into the job, you went into the default section, you hit the canceled box, that will no longer show up as an open job because the system status will be canceled. If you had filled all 3 jobs, that would show up as a filled job, no longer open. A job status could be different. You could have an open job with a status of hot or need to fill, open, new, whatever it might be. So always take a look at the system status. What's nice about the columns is you can actually click, drag them around. So you can make job order status and system status right beside each other. Now that you have your open jobs, if you really want to narrow it down for one client, you can type in the filter 2020 printing or 20, the enter key, and just get 2020 printings open jobs just like that. No longer do you have to do a search or go to your dashboard widgets. As soon as you go to your dashboard module, you'll see it right over there. So one of the main things when cloning a job order was it didn't clone the web integration section. Now, when you go to clone a job order right over here, you'll first start off with the client. So where do you want to clone a job from? Well, it's from 2020 printing. Next, what job order do you want to clone? It was the data entry number 51. You can type in data entry or you can type in the number if you remember it. You can select who is the account manager for this job order. You can look for them by name and the ownership. The ownership will default to your name if you're the one entering the job order, but you can easily change it by typing over and looking for any other user in your database. Where do you want the job cloned to? If you want to clone it to Mindscope USA, you can replace that with Mindscope USA and you'll see the contacts below. In this case, I want to keep it to the same client. Then I'm going to pick the workflow. And then right over here is a new button, Clone Web Integration Details. So I'd posted my data entry role online to my website, and I want to create another data entry role, maybe for nights, but I want to clone everything because job description, job responsibilities is just the same thing. I can clone my job right now and then quickly change the name to data entry nights. So you would clone the web integration details as well, select the contact or contacts, and then just clone at the bottom. Just like that, you're good. Now, when it comes to creating new job orders, we've also made the following fields available from the client profile. So if you were to create a new job, the division from the client profile, the business unit, the office, company, tax exemption, billing units, and contract code fields will be transferred into the job order as well. The triggers are now available in the new user interface. And right over here, we actually have a button to quickly resend the trigger notification. So this is for a new job order trigger. If you don't have it already, you can go to My Information in the old interface, My Company, and under Summary Trigger Settings. And one of the trigger settings you can have set up is every time there's a new job order created in the system, automatically send an email to all the users. You can have this set up to all the users, or you can have this set up to individual users. This trigger will allow you to resend that email. Let's say if maybe you change job responsibilities, the job name, and you want to resend that trigger out to your team, there's a quick button up there now where you can click, it'll resend that trigger notification. And if you notice right beside that is that pin feature we saw before in the candidate section. So it's also available in the jobs and your clients. Now, if I go into the all update section for a job, we've added a few new things in here. Number one is the toggle. So if you wanted to see, let's say, all the updates, let me go to a job with actual updates, 51. Now, when you head into the all update section, you have a toggle between enter date and start date. You might want to see what interviews were entered last week, or you might want to see what interviews started last week. So this toggle will allow you to toggle between start and entered. Below, we've actually changed some of the screen around. So we've added the start date of the activity. If it's something like a phone screen, the start date was 3/18/2021. The stage name. So this phone screen was done in the reviewed stage. If it was an unstaged activity, it would show you that as well. The stages are basically whatever you had set up for your pipeline. Now, we've also added the ability to see the results of activity as well. So right over here, you can see there was a phone screen and there was a left message. Next, in our schedule activity window, so let's say if you were in the screening and you were to have taken action with this candidate and you performed a phone screen. Sorry. Over here. We've added a new to button. So if you had, something with this candidate, this job order, and you want to email this to somebody internally in your team, you can email right over here. And when you complete this activity, it'll actually send this person an email with everything from the activity. So they would see that you had a phone screen with this candidate with this job order. It would show phone screen completed, whatever date and time it was, but most important, all your notes during the phone screen. So if you want to alert a manager or another recruiter of the activity, whether it be a phone screen, an interview, or something for them to do, you can put them into the to box, put in your notes at the bottom. When you click on save, they'll receive an email with all the details from this activity. One item we brought over in the searching was the note type. So when you head into the candidate search and you head into the free text search, you can now search for the note type right over here. So whether you're searching for schedule notes or if you have specific note types like interview notes, you can search on those as well. One of the main features that was added before, and if you're not using this yet, was a schedule activity information search. So this is now in the basic. You can search for candidates who you've had previous phone calls, interviews, communications with, for candidates with those activities or candidates that never gotten a phone call, never had a resume submittal, never had a placement. We've added some preferences in the My Company preferences area. So when you head into My Company and preferences, if you do not see My Company, it's only for the administrators. So if you're a recruiter, you wouldn't see this section. But any admin can go to My Company preferences. And we've added for the candidate. So let's say if you were to add a new candidate and you want their default email to just be personal automatically, that can now be set. Same with the phone type. Most of the time, candidates on their resume have their cell phone number. And if you're using our texting feature in Mindscope, you know that you can only send a text message to somebody with a cell phone type. So instead of, picking a default one every time, you can set it as cell. So every time you parse in a resume, it'll just mark the number as cell automatically. And same thing for addresses. If you want the address for the candidate to be home, perfect. Now there's also the option with contacts. So when you bring in a new contact and you want their email to automatically be marked as business, you want their cell phone and you want their address to be business, that's now pre-selected. So when you're adding new phone numbers, emails, addresses, that one step of clicking the phone type, the address type, that is completed for you. We've also introduced the new Outlook plugin. So I'll actually just plug this into the chat right now. This is on the last, everyone, there you go. This was in the last marketing email. And when you click onto the link, here you can download the plugin. So there's some instructions below and you'll find your bit version right over here. There's instructions on how to find your bit version as well. The new Outlook plugin, when you're now parsing resumes into the database, it'll just redirect you to the new user interface. And then for Shazam, if you do not have Shazam yet, I'll go ahead and supply this link as well in the chat. There you go. We've introduced a new Shazam for the new user interface. This puts the picture in the proper spot and it allows it, to be utilized with the new UI. When you're installing Shazam, it's going to ask you for 3 items. Number 1, the username. So the username will be your email. Number 2 will be the password, which is the Mindscope password that you use to log in to the database with. And number 3 is going to be your vendor ID. Very common question. Your vendor ID is actually located in your database link. Myself, my vendor ID is train D09999. Your vendor ID will be different. It'll be located right over here in your link. So that was some of the new features for this upcoming update. Hopefully it provides some help on that side. Charlotte?
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Sahil. So we do have a couple questions here. Let me just pull them up. Someone requested if you could show the toggle feature again.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
So I'm going to head into the candidate side. And I think we're working with Smith. So right over here, if you have a candidate that's also a contact, number 1, you'll know because at the top right, you're going to see view contact profile. So you know that they both exist as a candidate and a contact. Here will be your toggle. So you can flip between candidate and contact activity. If you want to see the activity you have that you've maybe had job orders with the contact, and if you want to sort of separate that from the candidate activity because you want to chase them to place them into a new job, you can toggle right over here.
Okay, awesome. Can you set individual users? For example, can you set a recruiter assigned to the position?
Like for a job order?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, like if I understand the question, sorry, it's when you're creating a job order, you can have an ownership and then you can have an account manager. You can relabel account manager to recruiter if you like, but it is possible when you're creating a job and even after you create it, if you go into the job order, using the little pen at the bottom right, this will allow you to modify the defaults, and in there you'll find ownership and account manager. And this is searching users on your database.
Is there any way to group a number of jobs under a project name from one client in order to see them all at one time?
I highly always recommend the hot list feature. So hot lists are never deleted until you actually delete them yourself. Let's say if I look for 2020 printing, and as you can see, I didn't do a basic search. I just quickly used my filters on all the jobs, 2020 printing, very easily. And let's say I want all these data entries to be in their own project. I'm going to select all 3 data entry. If there was a lot of jobs, I can just type in data and get the 3 only. I can then action, add to a hot list, and call this hot list, project data entry, and maybe the client name. And then I can keep this public so all the users can view it and then save. Now, when you log in, you can go to your hot list and you'll always find your hot list, project DE 2020 right over here. It'll never be deleted until you 3 dots and delete it. But now everybody has access to this list on the database. So you can click and get to it right away.
Perfect. Can you assign an activity to someone with the details to cover that activity?
Yep. So when you're scheduling an activity, if you replace your name with somebody else, it's now their activity. So when they log in, they're going to see it, especially if you created a reminder. This little bell at the top right will ring for them. It'll make a sound on the computer. You'll see a 1, and when you click, you'll see the activity. On top of that, when you go to your schedule for the day, which is you should start here pretty much every day, when you go to the type, you can see all the items that you've assigned and all the items you've been delegated. So if you have assigned items to users throughout the whole week, you can then go to all the assigned items that was done this week, and you can see the notes directly on this table. If they were done, if they were completed, what notes they had put in, all that right over here.
Perfect. Is there a timeline when the Outlook plugin will work with OWA?
Sorry, what does OWA stand?
I'm not sure. Ashley, can you clarify? Oh, web app, with the web app.
Oh, with that, I have to find out. Sorry,
Okay.
I'd have Ashley. Oh, perfect. Ashley, I'll give you a shout via email.
Perfect. Thank you. For our client Joe here, he just started with Mindscope. He'll have an overview training at some point, yeah?
And we offer videos as well and manuals.
Okay, perfect. And can you assign an activities to someone who is not a Mindscope user?
There would have to be a Mindscope user in order to assign activities to them. If you want to alert them, though, when you go into the activity, you utilize a new 2 feature. So schedule and 2, it'll just alert them of it. If you had technically had, actually, no, they have to be a user on your database in order to assign that to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty, so if there are no more questions, we'll end it here today. So thank you, Sahil, for walking us through, and thank you everyone for joining. Keep your ears open for the release of the new software update, and we will send out some marketing materials surrounding the next webinar. It will be in 2 weeks from today. So have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.